Hello everyone, Jason here with Indie Corner, and I've tracked down the elusive studio Drinkbox Studio to this building. Of course, they are the developer of the recently released Guacamelee. And we're gonna go inside, see what this independent studio is all about, ask them some questions, and have some fun. So come on in. All right, so in here, there's not much indication as where Drinkbox Studio could be, other than, of course, this nice little card. Looks like we're gonna have to go up to the 4th floor. And since there's no elevator, it's time to use the stairs. I am loving the look of this building. Nice old flooring. Has a lot of charm to it. At least these guys get a good workout every morning. One more to go. Got some guys hard at work back there. So let's just go down the hall. I think it's 405. Here we are. Hello everyone, and here we are today at Drinkbox Studios. With me I have Chris, designer at Drinkbox Studio, as well as Graham, who's the co-founder of Drinkbox Studios. Today we're taking a tour of the studio, seeing what an indie studio is all about here in Toronto, Canada. And Chris, maybe you can get us started as a little bit of the history of Drinkbox Studios.
The studio was founded in 2008, and right now I think we're around 12 or 13 people. Which sounds like a lot when I say it. And our first couple of titles, first title was Tales from Space about a blob, and then Tales from Space Mutant Blobs Attack, and then recently we did Guacamelee, which is probably what we're best known for.
All right, now you have a few more titles coming down the line as well, right?
Yes, we're working on a game that's called Severed, and then we have a couple of other ideas that we're kicking around, but it's pretty early that we don't even have a name for them yet.
All right, great, so we'll just call that Project Secret for now.
Yes, that's a very good name.
So when you guys started the studio, did you start off as, about 12 people, or was it a much smaller team then?
The team was much smaller. Initially, it was just the founders there was 3 of them. Okay. So the studio started off with 3 folks, and then brought in a couple of guys as the work started to come in. The studio did a lot of work for hire originally, right. And then over the years, we just picked up people as we needed them. So I think we're pretty happy with the number we have now. I don't see us getting much bigger.
Okay. And now you guys are located in Toronto, of course. There's not too many indie studios here that we see for consoles. Now, what do you guys think of having a studio in Toronto? Do you feel like the community is there for you guys?
Yeah, I think being an indie studio in Toronto is actually really great because Toronto had nothing for quite a while with regards to game development. I mean, it had very small, and there's no large studios, at least in Toronto. People have been doing small stuff for a while. But I think the fact that there wasn't any large studios in Toronto meant a lot of small indies popped up. And now there's this really strong community in Toronto, indie community in Toronto. So I think it's become almost a hotbed for small game devs.
So you would say that in the next few years we're probably going to see Toronto become more and more known for kind of game development?
Yeah, I think already it's known pretty well for small devs at least. I mean, there's Capybara here and MetaNet, Queasy Games, studios that have put out some really quality smaller games. Right. So I think already now it's being known as the capital of indie games, or one of the leading cities for indie games in North America. So
Guacamelee, the first edition, came out a year ago. Now, can you kind of give us a quick glimpse of what the game is, what players can expect from it?
Sure. So Guacamelee is a 2D Metrovania platformer brawler, which is quite a mouthful. So basically, players can expect a pretty awesome brawling system, so they can fight a lot of enemies. Some really interesting platforming puzzles, pretty cool storyline, and of course this Metrovania flair where players won't start off with every ability, and as they progress through the game, they'll gain abilities which will allow them to access areas earlier in the game that they couldn't access before.
And now, is it separated levels, or is it kind of an open world feel where you can just walk around like throughout all the
Yeah.
levels seamlessly.
So it's a giant world with individual levels that aren't necessarily linear, but like there'll be different load screens for different levels, but it is one giant connected world with multiple areas which are connected in various through various different areas, paths.
I know that there's multiplayer in the game. How does the multiplayer work in this Metroidvania style of game? Is it co-op or?
It's co-op, so it's drop-in, drop-out co-op. So it's kind of nice because you can be playing the game by yourself for a while and then have a friend drop in without much repercussions. Playing a co-op poses challenges, but also benefits depending on what part of the game you're in. Yeah, and there's also this new version of Guacamelee. We've added independent dimension swapping. So in the game, you will gain the ability to swap dimensions. So there's 2 dimensions in the world. And for co-op, we added the ability for each player to independently choose which dimension they're in, which is kind of a neat take on it.
And now, okay, so you were saying that's a new feature with this re-release that came out. Can you share any other new details that you've added to the game with the re-release?
Definitely. Let's see, there's lots of new content. So there's 2 new levels, all the original DLC, new boss, we have multiple new enemies, you can now have multiple save slots, finally. There's a dual currency system. So one currency is for in-game abilities and another currency is for purchasing player costumes, which are saved across all your save games. And so you can get costumes which give you buffs and debuffs, which is kind of cool. So you can modify the way you want to play the game by choosing a certain costume that fits your playstyle. What else? There was a graphics update, lots of small fixes. We smoothed out difficulty spikes. It's a good version of the game.
Developing for the Wii U, this was your first game on the Wii U, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Now, did you find any surprises or challenges developing for the platform?
Not particularly. I think just including the gamepad was interesting for us. And we worked with the development on the Wii with another company called Broken Rules. So some friends of ours actually who we met at a PAX a few years ago. Okay. They've worked a lot with the Wii U, so we had them help us out a bit for that. But no, generally the developing for the Wii U is fairly smooth for us.
Okay. And did you guys have any incentive as to why you wanted to port it to the Wii U?
I think Nintendo is just really excited about having our game on the Wii U. Right. And so I think they get a lot of the credit for pushing us to do it. And also I think there's a part of us which has always wanted to put a game out on a Nintendo product because a lot of us grew up playing Nintendo. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right, now we have your other game, Severed. Can we share a few details about that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to let Graham talk about Severed.
Absolutely.
Tech.
All right, so Graham, if you can, Severed, what's it about?
What's Severed about? Okay, so Severed is still pretty early in development, so we're still figuring out exactly what Severed is about. But I can tell you that it's really inspired by some old school games that we played on Nintendo platforms, like Punch-Out, like Mega Man. So we wanted to kind of go back to those games and like re-explore some of the ideas that they presented. So in Severed, you start the game. You play as a girl who she kind of wakes up and it's not clear if she has her memories or not, but the player doesn't know what's happened to her. And as you progress, so as you navigate through this world, you're kind of unlocking parts of your memories, trying to figure out like what happened to this girl. So it's a large open world that you're going through and exploring, and enemies will drop around you, and the combat is kind of like Mike Tyson style combat where you won't know exactly when you first meet an enemy how to beat them, and you'll have to experiment, kind of like Infinity Blade style, like slashing interactions. But more like Mike Tyson style strategies. So at first you'll meet an enemy, you won't know what to do. You'll experiment. You'll figure out how to beat an enemy, and then we'll start dropping multiple enemies around the player, like of different types, and you'll have to figure out how to approach that kind of situation as well. And then the world structure is kind of like a Mega Man style game where you'll explore different parts of the world, and you might go down one path and fight a boss and get a new power, and that will help you down another path inside of the world that you might have previously tried and it was too difficult for you, but now that you have this new power, it's much easier. So we kind of want to have this open world where the player can explore try different pathways and see like just experiment on like how they want to approach the world. It might even be possible to go right down the final path and try and fight the final boss right away. We're still kind of playing around with that kind of stuff. In terms of like navigation, everything is done using like touch. So the player will move from like location to location. They can spin around like a 360 view to see like what's around them, and then they can kind of click to move forward to the next area. That's kind of like a high level of Severed is.
Would you say then it's similar to the classic Zelda where you're just kind of drop down in an open world and it's up to you to figure it out, or is it more like the old classic Mega Man where you can actually pick your levels and you get dropped down in different parts?
It's much more like Zelda in terms of the exploration and trying to figure out like where you have to go. Yeah, so one challenge that we've kind of posed to ourselves right now is like we don't want to have any text or dialogue in the game. It's all just going to be done through visuals, and I don't know if we're going to be able to pull that off, but so far we've been able to do it. So we want to present like everything to the player just visually, like as they're unlocking their memories, everything has to be done visually. There's no one telling them what their quest is. They kind of got to figure that out on their own. And
so no holding hands in this game.
Yeah. At least that's what we hope we can pull off. Yeah. And so it's been pretty challenging already, and we'll see if we can get that all the way to the end. Yeah.
Okay. Now you said everything would be touch based, right? So we'd be seeing platforms such as mobile, Wii U, maybe. I know nothing's confirmed right now.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure that out. I mean, you can see Drinkbox has released games on PlayStation Vita and Wii U, so those platforms are kind of platforms that make sense because our engine is already running on those platforms. We're also thinking about 3DS. We're thinking about mobile. So those are platforms that we don't currently have our engine running on, but like we want to explore bringing the game to as many places as we can. So
okay, yeah. Great. And do we have any time frame that we could expect this, like next year, 2 years?
Well, we're hoping to release it early next year.
Okay.
So like I said, things are still pretty early, and we don't know for sure if that's going to be possible, but that's what we're targeting. Yeah.
Okay. And now in this other project, the Project Secret, as we call it, is there any details you can share about that at all?
Not really. I mean, we like to talk about this project. We're really excited about this project. Yeah, I can't really say anything.
How about platform support? Can we expect platforms even if we don't know what the details are?
I would say we can probably expect similar platforms to Guacamelee for that game. That game is kind of similar in a lot of ways to Guacamelee in terms of like its like side-scrolling nature and such. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna have to wait and see what the secret's all about. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate all the information you shared with us. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you.